Welcome to the UN Brief. We interviewed Carla Canales. She is Professor of Practice in Cultural Diplomacy at the Fletcher Graduate School of Global Affairs. Ms. Canales leads the inaugural program on cultural diplomacy, an initiative examining the ways in which arts and culture can advance U.S. foreign policy objectives. Thank you for watching and listening to the UN Brief, and don't forget to subscribe.
I currently wear a couple of different hats. I still perform, but I've also newly joined the faculty at the Fletcher School for Law and Diplomacy, where I will be teaching cultural diplomacy. I remain affiliated with Harvard as a fellow at the Kennedy School, and I am an arts envoy for the State Department since 2005, so close to 20 years now, and have really had a deep honor of serving my country through cultural diplomacy missions.
So your training initially was in the performing arts, but you also worked and started teaching, or walk us through a little bit. How did it all started? Because it started with the singing, with the performing arts part first.
Yeah, my degrees are all in performance. So I have a lot of training as a performer. It takes a long time to learn to sing opera. And I really got to study throughout the world, at the University of Michigan, at the Paris Conservatory, the Mozarteum in Austria, several programs in Italy, and then my master's at McGill in Canada, followed by Academy of Vocal Arts in Philadelphia. So all singing, and that was really the primary focus of my career for the first 20 years, let's say. But I have had the honor of working for the State Department as an arts envoy, which puts me as an artist deployed really to promote our foreign policy objectives. And then most recently through the pandemic, I went back to school as a fellow at Harvard University, where I had the chance to really further study from an academic lens, cultural diplomacy and diplomacy at large. And I was very lucky to work with Ambassador Nicholas Burns while he was at Harvard before going to China, and start a project on cultural diplomacy there. And just recently, as of this summer, I've been asked to bring that project and my work to Fletcher to officially become a professor there, teaching cultural diplomacy, and also continuing my work in cultural diplomacy.
Start already last semester, or this is the first semester?
This will be my first semester, yes.
Fantastic. So we are looking forward to it.
Thank you.
You were going as an envoy. Where did you go, and what kind of actions happened simultaneously to the performing? Actually, did you?
Yeah, exactly. It was always simultaneous. That's exactly right. So I have been in about a dozen countries, and sometimes in a country more than one time, like Mexico. I've been to, that was my very first mission in 2005, and I've been back there several times. It's a country dear to my heart because my mother is Mexican, and I actually hold Mexican citizenship and a Mexican passport as well. But other countries where I did not have any family connection, like China, were really big learning opportunities for me. And I had the chance to perform in China very frequently from 2011 until just before the pandemic at the invitation of the State Department, which also led to invitations for me as a guest soloist, singing Carmen, for example, at the National Center for the Performing Arts, with the Shanghai Opera and other places. Then just interestingly—
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Of, as you said, really blending also cultures, right? Working with the Shanghai Opera at the same time, it's pretty amazing.
It definitely was amazing for me, being the only non-Chinese in these Chinese casts, and Carmen, for instance, is a big cast. So you can imagine how much I learned. And this is a point I really stress, is that for me, cultural diplomacy is a two-way street. It's not a monologue, it's a dialogue. And I think that that's something I really hope that we in this field can focus on more, is the fact that we can learn just as much as we can share. So particularly in the examples in China, for instance, I learned so much because that culture was relatively foreign to me. The language was foreign to me. And those lessons are lessons I've brought back to the United States and hopefully to my other exchanges as well.
In Mexico, how was the experience? Because since you are also part Mexican, right? We cannot give up that part.
No.
So
Yeah, it was really powerful. First of all, it had been my dream to sing for my grandmother and my family there, and I got to do that many times actually before she passed away, and she was a big part of my life. So those opportunities allowed me to fulfill that very personal dream of mine. But I will say, it was extremely interesting. I thought, for instance, that I might be naturally suited because I speak Spanish, but my very first mission, which was in an area called Campeche. It's an area actually that's at that time, 2005, was rather under resourced, let's say, and much of the population was a Mayan population that spoke dialects or Mayan, so even speaking Spanish natively as I did, there were all these layers that, were learning experiences for me. But I think as someone with two citizenships, as someone who's traveled and lived a lot of places, and I'm sure there are many people who can relate to this, not just diplomats, but I always see it as, an opportunity to build a bridge, going to a place you have this opportunity to share, and then whatever you learn from that place, you can bring it to the next place. And therefore, I believe a lot in kind of change through these small moving one grain of sand at a time. It might seem lugubrious, but really change happens one step at a time, one conversation at a time. And so kind of collectively over these 20 years of these experiences, I feel like now I look back and go, wow, I learned so much. And that's what makes me excited to teach now, because I really feel like I'm looking forward to being able to share what I've learned.
I'm going to be teaching also open classes like MOOCs.
Yes.
Yes, perhaps those who are not in Boston.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. So one of the things I was able to sort of pilot at Harvard was this idea of open source education. And basically, I'll just say it very humbly, I was going on an academic journey from this performer side. And so I had this platform at Harvard, which was so supportive. And I said, who else wants to come on the journey with me? Let's learn together. And I named it the Cultural Diplomacy, Soft Power and Cultural Diplomacy Study Group. And actually in the first year, we had, I think, over 3,000 registrants from around the world. And so I invited guest speakers, we read things together, I sort of led discussions and breakout rooms and so forth. And that work now will start more structured under the Fletcher umbrella. So I'm really excited that this will be able to continue, that we'll be able to continue to learn as a group of, dare I say, friends, colleagues from around the world, from our guest speakers, but also from each other. The beauty of the study group is that we had people from about 40 different countries represented, from Vanuatu, from literally all over the world. And to just be able to sit and have a conversation with other people who care about cultural diplomacy in and of itself is really a gift. So definitely that door is open for everyone. We're already starting our registration. I can share that link with you. It's free. And it's open to anyone who wants to be a part of it.
Looking forward to it. And you also, being at Harvard, you had also perhaps the opportunity to meet with someone who is very keen on this concept of soft power, right?
Yes, I will say it was really a dream, still such a dream to meet a hero of mine, Professor Dr. Joseph Nye, who of course coined the term soft power, and he's done so much work in this regard. And he very graciously came and spoke with the study group several times and has been just a tremendous mentor to me as I continue to learn about soft power and its applications today.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking a moment to speak with the UN Brief, and I'm looking forward to following up in the courses that will be open to the public and the working groups. And best of luck for the courses that are starting. And I look forward, and I think it's very exciting that there is this opportunity to study, cultural diplomacy with someone like you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very kind. Well, thank you. And I really invite you and anybody who would like to join. It's a collective. It's a group for us to share on these best practices. And lastly, if I may, I think the thing that really excites me, and I just wanted to get this in, is the possibilities that we're living with now in a digital era. both for cultural diplomacy and for education. It's really fantastic that we can have a cohort for the study group from all over because of the digital possibilities. I've also been able to lead now numerous programs for the State Department entirely virtually, which give access to so many people. So we're living in a very exciting time for cultural diplomacy, and just even, this interview is a great example of that. Thank you for the work that you do, and I hope that we'll continue to be in touch.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much. Pleasure
Thank
speaking
you.
with Carla Canales.
Thank you
Pleasure.
very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching and listening to the UN Brief. And don't forget to subscribe